Here's a puzzle that even the mighty Sphinx would have trouble solving. See if you can tell me the real name of that rotund rogue, King Tut. Stay tuned.
Night has fallen.
When the dastardly doers of crime creep out of the shadows to terrorize the city, there's only one thing to do.
Whoever that unknown Batman is, I hope he sees the signal.
Rest easy, citizens. He's on his way.
There's only one man who can handle this. I don't have to tell you who.
Get ready, Gotham City. It's TV's classic Batman.
King Tut's real name was Professor William Omaha McElroy.
Now, why didn't I think of that?
Thus far, we have seen King Tut and his tankful of lovelies, while his tutling heists some amber beads. But why? A vitamin pill and a call for help. Even Batman is stumped. His one lead, a lead pestle, an unholy operation to release sacred scarabs from their ancient tombs. Shock treatments to resurrect them. Shocking! The pestle leads to an apothecary shop, but Tut escapes with his scarabs. All but one, that is. A breeding farm for the plague? No, even worse. Abu Rabu Simbu 2, a deadly potion to paralyze the will. A clever ploy of Batman's. Robin in the Sphinx. But then the boy wonder gives it away. A precarious perch for the boy wonder. And Batman to the rescue. But does Tut have the last word? Don't go away. The most horrendous is yet to happen.
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and we are back with a returning villain. One that, while, for myself it was, fairly fun to watch the first time around, for my guest previously, he wasn't too fond of it, that being Jim Beard, and that being King Tut. Didn't fare very well with him, and as we discussed in that episode, I could understand his problems with the character, and we're going to see today if those problems continue. But Jim hasn't returned for this episode. In fact, I've asked another old friend of mine, but someone new to the podcast here, to join me. Joining me here for today's podcast is Mr. Julio Angel Ortiz, writer extraordinaire. Hey, Julio, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, John, how's it going? Thank you for having me. And can I get that little clip of writer extraordinaire? Maybe I can just siphon that off and use that elsewhere, because that would be awesome.
I think we can arrange that. Now, I'm going to, as I always ask my first-time guests, why did you pick Tut among the list when I put out the call for new episodes?
Growing up, when I was a kid, and this is like late 70s, early 80s, I loved Batman show. They had it on replay. I guess it would be channel 29 back in the day. And it would be on, every day, and I would religiously sit down and want to watch it. And so, you remember a lot of the villains, obviously the classics, Joker, Riddler. King Tut was one that didn't stand out to me when I looked at the list. So I'm like, let me reacquaint myself and, try something that, I probably have seen and I probably just don't remember. So it would be kind of like something like with a new fresh set of eyes. So that's why I chose King Tut.
Okay. Now it's interesting you say that you don't remember so I don't want to get into it yet. We'll be talking about this as we go through the episode. I'm just hoping this isn't a case of you don't remember because he wasn't that good to begin with.
Yeah, I'll leave that spoiler for later.
Well, the episodes we're going to be doing are called The Spell of Tut and Tut's Case is Shut. And I get the feeling this is probably why after a while the rhyme schemes of the episodes are starting to wear thin, so we start to notice that it's breaking down. The last episode wasn't a rhyme couplet of titles, and I think that's going to fade away because that's pretty weak in terms of titles.
Yeah. And it's a subject of the times, right? I mean, back when these shows were produced back in the 60s and the audience they were aiming for, it just, I kind of kept thinking that when I'm watching the episode is like, oh, this is really dated on a sort of like meta sense. You know what I mean?
These episodes aired on September 28th and 29th, 1966 on the ABC television network. Before we get into the episode itself, I did want to point out this episode, or these two episodes, actually have a caliber of guest stars that probably at the time weren't big. I mean, some of them weren't, but still, we would recognize them now. First off, we have Michael Pataki as I can never say this right, Amenophis Tufik, which is a running joke throughout the whole story.
Right.
He's one of King Tut's, henchmen. Sid Haig plays the Royal Apothecary. Sid Haig of Star Trek and $6 Million Man fame, as far as I'm concerned anyway, and other great television of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And then finally, we also have a cameo by Van Williams and Bruce Lee, which we'll also get into in this episode. So, you've got some big name stars appearing in this, along with Victor Buono, who we all remember Victor Buono, but apparently, according to Jim Beard on the last episode, he wasn't that big a name yet. So it was interesting that they brought him in when you had all the other caliber of stars in the first season, to play other villains. And then it's like King Tut, you bring in Victor Buono.
Well, you could have just stopped at, you brought in King Tut.
Yeah.
And that's it.
So let's get into the episode proper. Let's talk about this here. I mean, we've got our usual teaser in which we've got our crime being committed. Tut has sent some of his men to rob a safe of a wealthy man. They steal a necklace of amber beads instead of the large, expensive diamonds sitting there because, that is exactly what Tut wanted. They don't go off track or anything like that and say, I could just pocket this one for myself. Because there's honest thieves.
Well, what's funny, out of the scene that, in that teaser, first thing that jumped out at me was like the rich guy with the eye patch. Like, why did he need an eye patch in this scene? We don't have a history. We don't have a story of this guy. What was he, like a hunter in Africa or something? Like, why does he have an eye patch? Oh, and he was totally begging to be like knocked out too. I mean, it was like, you don't hold your thieves at bay with a gun and then completely lower your head into a very vulnerable position and then wait there like several seconds.
Yeah, that's one thing I often found funny about the Batman series in particular, was that you'd often have these characters with these quirks or these ways about them, and no explanation, none whatsoever. It just was a quirk, like the eye patch, Right. You're right about that. I never really thought about it, but they definitely are. They're sprinkled throughout the whole series. It's, why are you like that? Oh, maybe because it makes him stand out, because it's his only scene.
Exactly. I'm thinking, well, maybe he'll come back later. Maybe nope, this dude was done after that scene, and still wondering about that eye patch.
We cut to police headquarters where Commissioner Gordon is breaking in a new secretary while Bonnie's on vacation. And we see her, because I don't think we ever see Bonnie in the series. She's always just a voice over the intercom, but we see Miss Patrick, and she's obsessed with making sure that Gordon takes his vitamins.
Miss Patrick, a headache pill, please. I still don't quite understand how you could be rendered unconscious by a lead pencil.
Pestle, Commissioner. A lead pestle, which my assailants dropped in their escape.
No, Miss Patrick, I don't need a pill. It's for Mr.
Oh, it's time for your mid-morning vitamin, Commissioner.
Oh, really? Oh, well, what do you know? All right, thank you.
Pestle. A lead pestle. Odd sort of weapon, don't you agree? And rather odd assailants, come to think of it, in their strange Egyptian garbs. Egyptian?
Well, there can be no doubt about it, Commissioner. The Mad Monarch must once again be on the loose.
And have something even madder than ever up his 4th dynasty sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, that scene, I mean, yeah, don't judge me. The first, she comes into the scene and, you know, she's obviously, there's something kind of weird about her. She's kind of, you know, again, I'm thinking about the time period it was in. So, you know, female character, she's a secretary, of course, you know. And I'm like, her boobs stick out of me. Like, they look weird, like they're fake. You know, and I'm sitting there going, like, is this Madonna from her Vogue days? Like, what is this? Is it just me?
You know what it is? It's a staple of 60s television. Really, if you look at, especially the women in Batman, they all have, you know, push-up bras just pointing them out. So that was just a staple as far as I'm concerned for this series.
But they were like cones. Like, they were like they were just weird. And I'm sitting there, and when I'm writing my notes, I'm like, stop judging me in all caps. Like I know this is probably going to be like weird. It's like, I don't really want to tell it when we say this is just, yeah, it looks fake.
And then with her horn-rimmed glasses and her weird walk as she's coming in with her tray of pills.
Yeah, oh, that doesn't look obvious. There's nothing shady going on here.
Yeah.
Oh, and her obvious, like, leaning over the table to, you know, give the pill.
We've talked about where there have been opportunities, in particular the last episode of the first season, to insert, you know, little sexual innuendos and such into the show. That was the worst one, but this one's tame by comparison.
Oh yeah, but it was like, you know, if you're like a kid, like you're watching this, you'd be like, yeah, is she gonna fall over? Like, why is she? Like, she got back problems? Like, what's going on here?
Now, another thing we've also been discussing as we move into the series here is that, you know, the show starts to take shortcuts because Gordon is like, okay, I got to get Batman, gets to the phone. We don't get a lengthy scene with Bruce and Dick doing something that leads to them having to, you know, come up with an excuse. Instead, Bruce just goes right to the phone and picks it up.
Right.
There's no pretense.
And then right away, you know, Dick pulls that statue's head back. And then you get on the bat poles, which are labeled, which I never noticed that before when I was a kid watching.
Really?
Yeah. Why are they labeled? And I think it's labeled with bat pole.
It's labeled, well, there's the access to the Batcave is in the background, I believe, and then the poles themselves say Bruce and Dick.
Oh, is that what they say? Because,
yeah.
I mean, like, it's kind of hard. I'm used to, you know, the HD quality now in 2014.
Yeah.
But I'm like, label, like, why? Like Dick's ever going to run over to the Bruce's pole? Like, what? Yeah, you know, it's just funny. Things you notice now when you're an adult and not when you're a kid.
Well, the signage is another constant in the series. Everything gets signed, even when it's not necessary, right down to even the ladder from the Batcopter in the Batman movie has a little sign at the bottom that says Bat Ladder.
Yeah. And there must have been like an OSHA requirement.
You know, that's what we were saying when we did the episode a few weeks ago. Yeah, signage is just another staple of the series.
Whatever works for Batman and his safety compliance, you know, in the Batcave.
So Batman, you know, and Robin make their way to police headquarters. They're introduced to Miss Patrick, who's also offering them vitamins as well.
Yeah.
And I thought this odd. Batman says, I seldom resort to medication. And I'm like, I know there's been a number of times where he's handed Robin and himself pills so that they can get over whatever gas or whatever is about to hit them.
I mean, come on, writers. Continuity is important.
Yeah. Well, you know, 60s and 70s television continuity was not a key issue. As long as the characters remained as fairly true to themselves from week to week, you could get away with a lot of things. I mean, today, yeah, that would be just ridiculous because the internet, I mean, websites and what have you would be, you know, all ablaze if, you know, I don't know, take Hawaii Five-0 and suddenly McGarrett starts smoking weed or something, you know, just like, right. Yeah, every once in a while I like to relax. You didn't do that for the last 4 years.
Yeah, and then, you know, be Twitter, there'd be like a hashtag, Hawaii Five-0 weed, yeah. You know, hashtag. It would have been interesting to have social media in the 60s. TV would never have survived, you know, out of that era.
You know, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. It never would have survived. And all those little quiet scandals that we only heard about decades later would have exploded.
Yeah. It would have been an interesting time.
Including Adam West's conquests.
Yeah, can you imagine what that would have been like if everybody talked about that back then? Kids would be like, like watching, hey, it's Batman. I wonder how many girls he bagged this last week. Like, totally detracting from the awesome plots.
Yes. I like the fact that we get another little explanation of Tut's past sort of to fill us in. And the fact that they call the dean at Yale to check up on what happened and such, including the whole point of Batman spelling his name for the dean.
Hello, Dean Gerber. This is Batman. Batman. B-A-T-M-A-N. That's right, Dean Gerber, in Gotham City.
Yes. The show always had, like, as like many shows back then, right, that was especially were aimed for kids, always had that undercurrent of, like, education, right, and educating kids, even on, like, small details.
Right.
So, I saw that and I was like, okay, I think we get it. We don't need to have every little thing has to be a lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to give the writers credit because this show, and we've already started saying it here and we've mentioned it before, this show is incredibly sexist. As much as even like we like to sit there and applaud and go, well, we've got Batgirl and Catwoman, there are elements of them that are, it's like, well, you slip there. But there's this whole thing with Miss Patrick, and she's going on still with the vitamins to the commissioner and all, and he's frustrated with her. He really wants his old secretary back. But Batman comments how Miss Patrick is eager to please, a virtue good in anyone. And I was waiting for him to say a virtue good in any woman.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been out of place in that episode in that time.
No, absolutely not. But I applaud them for at least saying any one.
And you notice in that scene when he gets the call, or he calls, they call Yale, they speak with the person from Yale. She's holding the phone for him that whole time.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there thinking, like, dude, I would have just taken the phone from, like, oh, thank you, and, like, put it on the table, which is, like, 2 feet away. But no, she dutifully holds it as a, and that's just not me being sexist, a good woman should, or a good secretary should, in that time period. It's like, oh, you just kind of like put your head in your hands, It's like, oh, those crazy heady times.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked, though, and again, we don't see it very often, but I like the fact that, they had the clue of the lead pestle, which, they bopped our millionaire with the eye patch with. And I like the fact that, Batman figures out, okay, it's King Tut, it's a lead pestle. We're talking about an apothecary, not a pharmacist. I mean, yeah, that's the modern vernacular, but we need to find an apothecary here in Gotham City, and there aren't too many. So they're able to follow up and head for the apothecary shop.
Right, and again with the education, an apothecary, or as today would be druggist or pharmacist. I'm like, all right, Batman, you're the smartest guy in the room. We get it.
I get so sad, though, because I do Romeo and Juliet with my sophomores, and every year I have to explain what an apothecary is, and I'm like thinking, God, if you kids just had Batman, on television and were watching, you would know. I mean, I commented about this a few weeks ago on another episode. A lot of my vocabulary I developed through Batman, because words like apothecary, or in the movie when he tells Penguin to get a drink of water, slake your thirst, and I was just like, those are awesome words.
You're right, and I'm going to go into this I guess later, but that did jump out at me. Even though, okay, so the plot may be cheesy, the characters maybe whatever, the dialogue, you look at it then, and like, lead pestle, like the example you gave of apothecary, or slake your thirst. There were times, and I'm listening to the dialogue, I'm like, the words they use themselves are actually like, you don't get that level, right, of vocabulary in a lot of shows today.
No.
You're right. I mean, I don't know if maybe I'm mistaken, but
no, not at all. You're right.
And that jumped out at me when I was watching the episode. I'm like, apothecary by itself is a great word, but a lot of, as the dialogue continued and throughout both these parts, I'm like, they definitely didn't dumb down the use of the dialogue. It was, just everything else around it may have been quirky or whatever.
Right.
But today you're not going to hear someone say on a, whatever kid shows are on today, oh, let me slake my thirst. It's like people would be like, what? Or the kids would be like, what are you talking about? So no, Batman was definitely great for enhancing your vocabulary.
Enhancing your vocabulary, and what I also just liked was that they didn't just throw the words out there, they actually put context around them so that you could, even if you didn't know what the word meant, you got it from the way he said it.
Yes, I agree.
Educators of the world could take a few lessons from Batman.
So there should be, what you're saying is like for new teachers coming in, there should be like a mandatory Batman course.
Yeah.
Watch like a season of the series and be like, this is what you need to do for your vocab lessons.
Yes. This is how you should talk. And you should use the same inflection that Adam West uses.
Yes. I think we're onto something, John. I think we need to write to the government, and we need to get some programs in place. I think we're onto something.
You know what they call it? Bat Common Core.
Nice. That's awesome. And I think you're right.
So we move on to a scene where, at the apothecary shop, there's, King Tut, and he's got the scarabs that were taken by the henchmen, and he's going to bring them back to life. He has this... Now, again, Batman, yes, wonderful on vocabulary, terrible on science. We've talked about this before when they talked about how they were going to use 20,000 decibels to render you unconscious. It's like, no, 20,000 decibels of sound will split your head open, and now we've got 100,000 volts.
Yes. I actually wrote that in my notes. He said, the moment he said it, I was like, 100,000 volts with like 3 question marks after it. I was like, okay, the science isn't exactly strong here.
Yes.
Apparently he wants to cook them beyond all comparison.
Right. I'm like, it's just going to fry them. That's all.
Yeah. And if you notice the scenes, I love it. They show the bugs, and there's several in there, maybe 7 to 10. And they're all clearly, obviously, gummy bears, whatever they were. They're just dead. And then when he finally, breaks it up to 200,000 volts and magically resurrects them, because, hey, it's science.
Science.
There's 2 in there, 2 bugs that are alive in there.
Yeah.
Where'd the other 7 go? You probably fried them because you whipped it up to 200,000 volts.
And yet, that's all he needs are those 2 because of their reproductive qualities, and then the, how he's going to make this potion out of it. He can get gallons and gallons of the stuff. So he's happy with it. He's happy that he's got at least 2 alive.
And you notice when he was telling him to live and
Power.
Amps. Air. 100,000 volts.
100,000 volts.
Oxygen. Oxygen. Breathe, my children. Free yourselves from the arms of Osiris. Shake off the shackles of the sepulchre. Live.
He was chewing up the scenery so bad.
Oh, well, he is the first villain, and we commented on this in the last episode as well that we did with him. He is the first villain to really wink at the camera and chew. I mean, yes, all the villains, all the actors delighted in being the villains they were, and there's some over-the-top performances. But Buono, you got to wonder, part of his size is because of how much scenery chewing he's doing.
Oh, he took it to another level. Yeah. I mean, when he was about to start dancing with that skeleton.
Yes.
All right, man. Where are you going to go with this? And you wonder, and then you wonder, okay, so is he, being real subtle? Is there, a Danse Macabre kind of thing going on here that he's subtly trying to throw in there that's, real inside? I mean, is he being such a good actor by putting subtleties in his, chewing scenery moments? Or scenery chewing moments, I should say.
Huh. That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm looking way too into the show.
No, because I will tell you now, because the next scene, I look into it way too deep, maybe, and I know it sets a lot of fanboys' hearts aflutter. I hate it, because here we've got Batman and Robin arriving at the apothecary. They do a back climb to head up to the window of the apothecary, and along the way...
Gee whiz, Batman. Dropping in on a drugstore might have been easier.
Exercise never hurt anyone, Robin. We must always keep the element of surprise on our side. What are you doing here? I might ask you the same question.
Pursuing the enemies of law and order wherever they happen to be.
Aren't you in the wrong city?
On special assignment for the Daily Sentinel. You know my aide, Cato?
Robin, the boy wonder.
Well, I don't want to hold you up from your crime fighting.
Thank you, and good luck to you, Mr. Hornet.
Nice to have met you.
Gosh, Batman, what are they dressed like that for?
I hate this. I'm sorry.
Really?
I know there are fanboys, and I know right now there's the Batman 66 comic with Batman and the Green Hornet teaming up again. I hated when the Green Hornet appeared on Batman, both here and in the full episode, that the two-parter that they did, because it made no sense. First off, this one here, Green Hornet and Kato are, admitting to Batman they're the good guys. Yeah, because he's like, what are you doing here? Well, we're fighting, the villains of this, that, following a clue. It's like, no, you're supposed to be saying, oh my God, it's Batman, Green Hornet gas, and knock him out. Because you got to maintain the illusion you're a bad guy.
Right.
I just had a problem. Even my 8-year-old Mikey was sitting with me watching it, and he's like, why is the Green Hornet talking to Batman? Why isn't Batman clobbering him? He knew enough, and he's not, into all this. He knows enough about the Green Hornet and Batman to know this is wrong.
What's funny is when I saw that scene, I had like a little like fanboy, geek moment, and I was like, oh, Green Hornet and Kato. But you see, I'm coming at it from like, this jaded, now period where we kind of everything's sort of like we know, right? We're like the smart fans. You know who Green Hornet is. You know who Kato is, and you're just looking at it purely from the context of I can't believe they put him in like that was an appearance for like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
and it was cool. Like for me, like I just it's funny that we both had different reactions to it because I was like I was fine with it. I thought it was a nice little a nice little treat for fans.
Mm. I will say this much, because you say like we're jaded with today and stuff, and that got me thinking, and it's something I've thought about from time to time. The Green Hornet would make an excellent TV show. Again, today, considering he's supposed to have that dark nature and be, a bad guy pretending to be bad but fighting good, and that I could almost see like if it was done in the right hands of some of the people who've done shows on the WB. Like an Arrow right now. I could see the Hornet. I mean, I know they wouldn't do it because Arrow's kind of in that way of sorts, although he seems to be leaning more now towards his, persona being, on the side of good.
Right. It was funny you say WB, and when you started mentioning the idea about a series, first thing popped in my head was, something like FX or HBO. Like, I think Green Hornet will work wonderfully as a TV series, but it would have to be in a channel or in a context that it allowed to be, gritty and give it the kind of darker edge that it would need. And I don't think any of those regular stations would provide it the opportunity. Now, like an AMC, like you look at AMC and what they've been doing with like Walking Dead, obviously, and Breaking Bad previously, it would be, I think, a better vehicle for Green Hornet. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it could be a phenomenal show, but I think it would need to be on a network that kind of gives it a little more free reign.
Okay, I could definitely see that. Yeah. Well, Batman and Robin make it up to the apothecary. They, try to get past Sid Haig there.
And what's in the back room?
Trolls and ghouls and amulets. Evil spells that will turn your bones to celery stalks.
Nevertheless, I think we should take a look for ourselves.
But no! Take another think, Batman.
And a bat fight ensues. And again, now, this is your first episode you've watched in a while, right?
Right.
Were you disappointed by the fact that there wasn't traditional Batman music, bat fight music playing as they fought?
I wasn't disappointed. It didn't bother me, but it was sort of, I'm used to seeing that or hearing it in the context of the fight. It just made it seem a little off from what I was used to.
Right.
And that makes sense, but...
No, absolutely it does. Because this is another bone of contention with me, that since the movie, and in the movie we don't get bat fight music, we get a new version of it, sort of, it's a little more jazzy styled. It's not really the bat fight music. And since then, most of the episodes that we've done so far in this second season have had different types of music. Some of them like a fight song that like leans towards the villain rather than the hero.
Okay, right.
So yeah, to me, I mean, it was a good fight, but it was just disappointing. And it's another one of those things that you start taking away these things that people do come to expect. I think that's some of what causes the show to lose its appeal.
And you wonder, like, why would they mess with the music? You think they would already have the rights to it. It's not like they can't use it.
Right.
So you wonder, like, you have some kind of behind the scenes material or look to see, hey, what led to some of these changes on the show? That's a good question. I don't know.
I don't either. I mean, I know some of it is that they'll use the music from the movie in some bat fights, but that's not the case here. This is, totally different here. But they do win the fight.
Yes.
But in the process, they also get a snootful of sneezing powder, and as Tut and his men get away, they grab up the scarabs, but they leave one behind, which Batman takes with him back to the Batcave.
Right. And, again, that sneezing powder move, like, took them, like, they had all day. The guy had all day to do it to them. They were just kind of looking at him. Like, they could have seen that coming very easily. And he's, oh, hey, guys. I'm surprised by their sneezing move. Like, it's like, you saw him coming with it. Classic, Batman.
Classic Batman. Yeah. And back at the Batcave, Batman and Robin are, looking through ancient scrolls, and they discover the potion that can bend a person's will to another. And they determine that Tut is going to make a batch of this, it's Abu Rabu Simbu 2 or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And use it to take over Gotham City.
Here's the big thing I got from that scene. Batman self-taught hieroglyphics.
Yes.
You catch that? Oh, well, Robin, I self-taught hieroglyphics. Who does that? Who sits there on like a Friday night? I'm going to teach myself these hieroglyphics. It was such an odd little factoid for him to put out there. I self-taught that. Like, there's nothing wrong if he like ordered hieroglyphics on tape or something, like some kind of course. No, he's self-taught because he's Batman.
Because he's Batman, exactly.
He's Batman, exactly.
Well, but if you think about it, because I often wondered about that, like, how he knows all these different things, and if he was self-taught, I mean, how noticeable would it, it's like, Bruce, why are you taking a course on hieroglyphics? Bruce, why are you going to this class on learning Arabic? Or, he had to probably do a lot of it on his own, or go off to these far remote places, to learn.
Right.
Because no one's going to talk, nowadays, there'll probably be somebody in Tibet with Wi-Fi connection going, guess who's here? Bruce Wayne.
Or over Skype. I'm just going to teach you over Skype, Mr. Wayne.
Yes.
He's the ultimate Renaissance man in the show, but it's like Renaissance men look at him and you go, man, I wish I could be that guy. I wish I could be Batman.
And I do appreciate the fact, because we don't see it very often, we talked about continuity. This episode does follow after the first King Tut appearance, because Bruce Wayne has purchased the Golden Pharaoh from the first episode, the one that Tut used to send off proclamations to Gotham City, and now Tut wants it back. He's upset that it was taken from him.
Yeah, that was an interesting, like, a little tie-in. Like, you wouldn't have expected them to do that, but I caught that and I was like, all right, that's cool.
The next scene, though, we've got the Sphinx in Wayne Manor on the lawn and such, and the thugs are, it's very cartoon-like as they're walking with the shrubs towards the Sphinx, trying to be inconspicuous.
Yes. It's interesting you point out, like, the campiness. I mean, it is a total, I mean, we obviously know the show was camp back then, but it was like, there was unapologetic.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. What they don't realize as they push the Sphinx away is that Robin is inside, sort of a Trojan horse.
Yeah, I'm sitting there like I thought the same thing. I'm like, this is a total Trojan horse, but in an Egyptian setting. I see what you did there, Batman writers.
Yes. They take it back to Tut's hideout, and Robin signals Batman, who, locks in onto his location using the communicator there. And we also...
His GPS?
I'm sorry? Go ahead.
His GPS?
Yes, his GPS.
The Bat GPS. He used his Bat phone, his B phone instead of his iPhone.
But we also learn a couple of things. First of all, the potion is ready, and we also learn that Miss Patrick, Commissioner Gordon's secretary, is Tut's new Cleopatra.
Twist.
Yes.
Plot twist.
Yes.
Because we didn't see that coming, even a little bit.
Right. And of course, in typical Robin fashion, and we didn't see that one coming either, he drops his communicator, which...
Drag him out! On your knees, Helot! On your knees before the almighty Pharaoh! Never! What, never? You dare to match your will against mine.
Give him a shot of your bug juice, boss. That'll take the wind out of his sails.
Good idea, Tutling. We have need of a guinea pig. Proceed, Royal Apothecary.
All that scene needed when Robin dropped his communicator was, like a... like, just that sound from, Price is Right or something to just complete it.
Right. I will admit, though, I thought it was interesting because could have had a brief Robin fight, could have given him a little time to shine there before they bring him down and capture him and put him in the trap. But no, what does Robin do as part? And I guess you could do a double wah, 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 because then he runs into the room where King Tut's rubber crocodiles are being kept.
Yes. And it's funny because, I in the next episode, I noted this too. I'm like, why is it Robin can only fight when Batman's around? Like, by all intents and purposes, Robin should be a pretty decent fighter, right? He's, whatever martial arts Batman has taught him. But why is it when he's alone, he's like, I got nothing. And, gets captured, right away. But then later on, the same thing, not to get ahead into the next episode, but then when Batman suddenly shows up, all of a sudden it's like Robin's empowered somehow.
He has his moments where he'll get a sock or two in on his own, but yeah, he's quickly brought down.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's in this room, the crocodiles are down below him, he's on this thin platform that is slowly retracting as we come to the end of episode 1.
Is Robin doomed? Those crocodiles look mighty hungry. Was Tut right? They'd soon be having a tasty dinner. Or was he merely shedding crocodile tears? Above all, will Batman arrive before the Boy Wonder's perch slides away? Tune in your Bat Sets tomorrow. Same time, same channel.
Yeah, and those plastic crocodiles do look hungry.
Yes, they do. I liked, though, that, the beginning of episode 2, Tut's like, oh, I have to go because I don't like the sound of my pets chewing.
Yeah. It's like, what? You're now you're getting soft? Really?
Now you're getting soft. Well, I'll say this much. It was a funny enough line because a lot of times when these villains, unless they're off to continue the next part of their caper, I don't understand why they don't wait and confirm the kill. Right.
You think they'd learn after all this time. Like, I'm just going to make sure that Robin gets eaten.
Yeah.
No, wait for it. And if you look judging by how long it was going to take with the way the platform was being retracted, it's going to take like 10 seconds of his life.
Yeah.
It's not going to be long. Just wait.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I was also thinking was that, they all leave. So it's like Robin could just grab hold of the bars of the door once the platform has retracted.
Yes.
And hold on. I mean, he's strong.
You would think, right? But then he can't fight anybody on his own to save his life.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Yeah. Well, Batman arrives. Tut is gone. Batman arrives. And what I like is, he's outside and there's a window to the room that Robin's in. The window has bars. So Batman pulls out his laser. And yes, cool laser effect. Hooray. But boo, because the laser has a delayed sound effect.
Yes. And that tree that was very conveniently placed right outside the bar in the window.
Yes.
Like, oh, look, there's a tree here. There's no trees anywhere else, but there's a tree right here. I also loved, when they would show the crocodile. So the crocodiles, the high, overhead view, obviously plastic. And then they show the close-up. It's stock footage of crocodiles or alligators, whatever, outside in clear daylight, not in a dark, dank dungeon. Those are little, again, it's just the jaded viewer, of today would notices those things, I guess.
Yeah. Now, he gets Robin, and they cut to police headquarters.
You know how wives are, Chief O'Hara. It's our anniversary, and I promised I'd take her to lunch, but leaving this office under the circumstances...
Oh, think no more about it, Commissioner. I'll be proud to take over for an hour or so. I consider it an honor that you've asked me.
I hoped you'd say that. Miss Patrick, Chief O'Hara is in charge of this office until I return. Please follow routine procedure.
Have a good time.
I will now.
Your pill, Chief O'Hara.
I never take pills.
It's routine procedure.
Hmm?
Commissioner, thank heavens I've reached you in time.
Oh, the Commissioner has just stepped out, Batman. This is Chief O'Hara. I'm in charge here for the time being.
Well, thank heavens I reached you, Chief O'Hara. There's treachery in that office. The Commissioner's summer secretary, the one who's replacing Bonnie, is King Tut's current Queen of the Nile.
Begorra!
We'll be there within a half hour. But don't be persuaded to take one of the Commissioner's vitamin capsules.
Oh, don't you worry, Cape Crusader. I wouldn't even think of... I already took one.
Yeah, dude, that scene was... O'Hara's useless. That's what I got from this scene.
Oh,
yeah, the pill. Sure, I'll take a pill that I don't have any need for.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Dude, that was... my note, exactly what I wrote. Chief O'Hara really is useless, isn't he?
Yes. and then, he doesn't do anything like pull out a gun or anything when Tut walks into the room. He's asking questions. Didn't anybody see? It's like, that's your first action is to ask, didn't anybody see you?
Yeah. Hey, did you sneak in here? He's worrying about, having to replace other staff that are incompetent. No, dude, you need to stop him. And then I love how when he falls under his control, his arms, throw out like he's, sleepwalking.
Yes, yeah. And Tut sends him out onto the ledge and has him do some dancing and pole swinging from the flagpole.
What was the point of the swinging on the pole? I mean, he's like an acrobatic gymnast here. He's like an Olympic gymnast out there.
Yeah, yeah. And they've got the Irish music playing, which I thought was a little offensive.
Yeah, that was a
little bit.
And for the time period, right? There wasn't a lot of racial sensitivity, or
no, there was none. No, there was no racial sensitivity back in the 60s.
So what I love is, O'Hara's up there. He's doing all these flips and acrobatics, and then Batman and Robin, run up there, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of going out to save him, Batman just starts calmly talking to him, when he's barely holding on and is about to fall. Chief O'Hara's about to die. Batman's like, hey, come here. There's no urgency to save O'Hara.
Right. It makes you wonder, though, because the whole point of the potion is to bend people's wills, to your desire. Does that mean that he's susceptible to anything? Because he comes in rather easily for Batman.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
Because to me, it's like this whole plot hinges on the fact that I'm going to get Gotham under my control. And let's say I'm Batman and Robin and I didn't take the water. And, I always have, because these scenes where, you see someone under their control and they go, all right, now go kill them. And it's and everybody's going, stop, no, and they have to fight or they do something. But, to me, the way this seems to work, Batman and Robin could go, no, go capture King Tut. And he's like, no, go capture. It's just going to be going back and forth.
He'll be ping-ponging back and forth between them.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good question. Makes you wonder about O'Hara's will, how weak-willed he is.
Yeah, that could be it, too. But they get him inside. And we learned that Tut's men have now produced 96,000 gallons of the potion, and they can.
And that's an oddly specific number, isn't it? 96,000.
It is.
Why not just 100,000? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, it is an odd number. It is an odd number. I give you that, and they're going to pour it all into the water supply.
How long would that even take? Yeah, there's so many holes in his plot. It's like, all right, so you got 96,000. How long would it take? How many men do you have? He's got like, what, 6 men at most?
At most. And I know, like, trying to dump out a gallon of water from a milk container when I'm trying to clean it out, you're sitting there and you're like, ga-dunk, ga-dunk, ga-dunk.
Yeah, exactly. So apparently this is like a 5-month process to get Gotham under his control.
Because you figured 96,000 gallons. All right, even if it's 6 men, and let's say you've got the trucks. How many trucks would you need to dump this stuff out, lined up against the reservoir?
And that nobody would notice.
Hey,
who's this strange dude dressed up in Egyptian clothing, dumping stuff in the water supply every day for the last 5 months? We'll let him be. Again, it's like we're looking so deep into this episode.
We are. Back at the Batcave, Batman is downing 6 glasses again. We got just an interesting number of buttermilk.
Yes.
As he tries to find an antidote to the potion. I like how, as with each glass, he dabs his mouth with the napkin that Alfred has ready for him.
Yes, I noticed that, and I'm like, all right. There's obviously a reason he's drinking this buttermilk.
Yes.
6 of them. Again, it's just so oddly specific, and the, like how he must have known when he receives the call from Commissioner Gordon. He was talking very robotic and monotone, like, oh, nothing's wrong here, I'm sure.
See, now there's another cheat, because Gordon was out of the office for the day.
Yes.
And now he's back in, and now he's back on, and now he's under control, and, didn't after Tut get into Police Commissioner Gordon's headquarters office once, didn't that, tell them they should beef up security?
Right, or where was O'Hara to, warn him, right? You'd think he would have, Batman wouldn't have just let O'Hara, continue to be under the influence. You think he would have somehow, cured him, and then he would warn Commissioner Gordon.
Right.
No.
Exactly, no.
Again, Chief O'Hara is useless.
Yeah. And like you said, he calls Batman, tells him that the Sphinx is back in Gotham Park making predictions. So Batman and Robin race there and they meet up with Gordon. And Gordon offers to buy Batman a lemonade.
Thank you, Commissioner. That sounds refreshing.
Boy Wonder?
No, thank you.
Very well, sir.
It's like, that's so nice of you.
Yes.
2, if you please.
I hope you know what you're doing, Batman.
He seems quite his old self.
Right. Thank you.
Which he spikes and which Batman drinks.
He spikes it with a very, a pill. Like a pill that doesn't look like it's going to dissolve anytime soon.
No, you're right.
The props they use.
Thank you, Commissioner. To your health.
Never been better, I'm top hole. And as eager as ever to fight the forces of evil.
To that, too.
I'll get that.
And may the first super criminal to feel our righteous wrath be King Tut.
I'll sign that one on the dotted line.
It's for you, Batman.
Excuse me, Commissioner.
Surely.
King Tut, Batman, and he insists on talking to you right now.
He does he? Well, I've got a message for him.
Tut, this is Batman. Yes? Yes? Yes, Your Majesty. Of course, my good and friendly Pharaoh. Your every wish is my command. I hear and obey.
What is it, Batman? What's the matter? Batman, what's wrong?
And it is freaky how, with his eyes rolled up under the cowl and he's just walking off. They do that close-up for a moment. That's a freaky look on him.
Yeah, and I mean, again, you're a kid like me, or you, we were real young when we watched this, 4, 5, 6 or whatever. That's going to kind of freak a kid out. That's your hero. That's the main character. He's never supposed to get under control. I mean, you're right. That was a well-done piece. But what's funny that you mentioned, just to go back a little bit earlier, you said about how the scene was padded. Like you felt it was padded in when O'Hara took the pill, like that scene.
Mm-hmm.
This whole episode felt that way to me. Like it felt like there was the pacing just felt as off as it can be in a Batman episode. It just felt off. You know what I'm saying? Like this could have been half the length of the episode.
Oh, I agree.
But they filled it in with with a bunch of the superfluous stuff, and it was like, it didn't help the episode in my eyes.
Which is so ironic because, like I said, there were other parts where we could have stood to have the traditional scene of Bruce and Dick talking at the beginning of the episode, doing something and coming, that would have been more acceptable than this.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Batman is collected by Tut's men. Robin tries to stop him. But
to no avail.
To no avail, and he's captured. They're brought back to Tut's headquarters. The potion is, now ready to go, and they're gonna head off to dump it into the water. We get a scene where Batman, it looks like all is lost. He's worshiping Tut.
Your kingship, Batman's come out of his spell.
Correction. I never was under your spell, Tut. Oh, I drank your cursed lemonade. But I took the precaution of coating my stomach with buttermilk.
Gosh, Batman.
A pure and simple stratagem to divine the super evil crime you planned, not only against your fellow man, but against Mother Nature herself.
Buttermilk. Yeah. A plague on you, Batman! Tutlings, sick 'em!
Ooh, plot twist.
Plot twist. I do admit I like this. I like episodes where we see Batman doing something odd and we wonder why. Why is he doing that? Like here in this one, the buttermilk, Why did he drink the buttermilk? Well, the buttermilk coated his stomach and it countered the potion.
I agree. Like that was probably for me the highlight of the episode is his plot, that Batman's machinations. That's how it worked out.
Yeah.
You saw it earlier. You're like, okay, buttermilk. This is a little weird, but I'm gonna go with it. And then his explanation, like this is classic Batman. Like a trope you see in the show, and I did dig it. I think it was probably the better part of the show.
My only thing being that as a kid, I honest to God thought, someday I'm going to try that. I'm going to eat something that's not good for me. But first I'll coat my stomach with buttermilk.
Not now!
Open that hose valve.
Keep your hands off my Abu Rabu Single too! No, not my life work, my life's blood and that of my lovely comparatives. All for naught, for naught. You're the one. You're the nicest man I've ever met, Batman, and this humble servant kneels at your feet.
His formula, it's working on him.
Poor, deluded man. He's walking a tightrope, Robin. Abu Rabu Simbu, too, plays no favorites. Gotham City has narrowly averted a catastrophe of major proportions. Too bad that such a distinguished professor and his twin trauma should become his own cavia porcellus.
Cavia porcellus?
Guinea pig.
I love the end scene when they're all talking in Commissioner Gordon's office and Chief O'Hara takes him away. And there's like a mention of a PTA at Yale. I was like, Yale has a PTA? Is it what? I mean, am I wrong, John? Is there, would you think of does a university usually have some kind of PTA? I've never heard that.
I've never heard of that myself either. I'm sure that's meant to be a joke of some sort. I thought it was interesting though that Gordon is debating whether or not he should try him in a court.
Because of his mental health status?
Because of his mental health. Well, I'm like thinking, isn't that up to a judge to decide whether or not, he should be declared insane or if he should go through a proper, trial?
I think that's one of those things where it's like, for the sake of time and plot. I mean, they're not going to show, it's not like Law and Order. Batman.
Batman.
They're not going to show Tut like going off to, being tried and the whole, the judicial system. You know,
Sam Waterston walks in.
Yeah, exactly. Although there's an interesting idea too.
Yeah.
We need a show that shows how supervillains are convicted.
Well, there you go. Law and Order Gotham City. Wait a minute. Yeah. I think we've got a comic strip at least there going.
Yeah, that's true.
But you have to do it 60s Batman style, though.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a spin-off of Batman 66 comic.
Right.
That's great. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it was odd. And I think that was just for the sake of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just to compress that whole process into a couple of words from Commissioner Gordon.
What did you think of the because Gordon gets the last word, in which he looks at the camera and breaks the fourth wall. What did you think of that? Because that's something that's been bothering me. He's done it a couple of times now.
Yeah, it's funny. I did note that that was like obviously the last note I put down, but I did look at that fourth wall breaking moment. See, I'm not a fan of those things in a show like this one. I didn't like it. I'm with you. I didn't care for it. I mean, it's obviously it's caught up in the mellow, quote unquote, melodrama of the moment, right? And it's obviously he's not talking to us. He's not talking to adult John and adult Julio. He's talking to the little kids that were watching back then. They think, oh, he's talking to me. That's so cool, I didn't like it. I didn't care for it. I think it was just a staple of its time.
Yeah.
And of the the format of the show.
I agree. So as we come to the end of this episode, a couple of things we want to point out and touch on here. First off, this is the return of King Tut. Now, overall, this is the first time you've watched the Batman episode in a while, and you chose one, like you said, that at first King Tut wasn't so memorable. In watching this episode, do you kind of understand why?
Yeah, I think... Yeah, because I just think it comes down to, I don't think King Tut was... Now, as an adult, right, as an older person watching it again, I can appreciate the actor's, skill and the physical comedy aspect he brought to it. But, when you're a kid, you're not thinking about that. You're not analyzing a show like you would, if you're older. You're not, what I'm saying? You see it through a very different set of eyes.
Yeah.
So I think as a kid, I don't think he had the charisma of a Joker, right, or of Riddler. He didn't put Batman in a death trap of a magnitude like, I'll give you an example, and I don't know how much time we have, but when I was a kid, I remember this one Batman episode, and I don't remember the villain of the piece, but I remember Batman and Robin hoisted above a vat of acid and slowly being lowered into it. And John, you probably know exactly what episode I'm talking about.
That was a Riddler episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that I always thought that was a great death trap to put Batman in. I mean, it's one of the ones that comes to mind when I think about the show first, right? Because I remember how it felt, how it made me as a kid feel. So, I didn't remember Riddler was in the episode, but I remember the death trap. These two episodes, there's nothing that I think I would have remembered that stood out to me. Robin's death trap with the fake alligators wouldn't have done it for me. Batman was never really in any mortal danger the entire two parts. King Tut's, his acting wouldn't have impressed me at that age because I wouldn't have been looking at it like that. Does it make sense? Does it make sense what I'm saying?
No, absolutely.
There's nothing in those two parts would have stood out to me as a kid, because maybe Chief O'Hara, doing gymnastics, but again, there was just nothing really memorable about it. It was all just kind of, typical, camp Batman for the time, and it's fine. It makes entertaining viewing. There was no hook there that would have stuck in my memory, unlike some other Batman episodes that I saw.
No, I can appreciate that. For the most part, I do agree with you. And I also, again, like I've said, he mugs more for the camera. He's laughing more at this. He's still saying things like ninny and booby. And I honestly, I thought it was Dr. Smith talking there, instead of King Tut. It just doesn't work. And it's a shame because Tut could be a really powerful villain. He should have been escalated up to the way the Riddler did. I mean, the Riddler was never a mainstream villain in the Batman comics. He'd only appeared 2 or 3 times. Then he gets that premiere on the Batman TV series, and suddenly he's part of the core 4. But King Tut never has that opportunity with his portrayal by Victor Buono. There's just so much lost there and so much potential killed because Buono played him.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's why when I looked at this episode and I saw the title, I'm like, King Tut, okay, I don't really remember him, but let's go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, there was a lot of wasted potential. I think if they had played a different actor playing it a little darker, a little more sinister may have done the job.
Right.
But, I mean, he's, he does the best, I guess, with whatever material he has, but he just plays it very much to the camp aspects of the show, and I think that hurts him in the end.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to touch base on, again, the writers. It's the same two who wrote the first King Tut episode, Robert C. Dennis and Earl Barrett. And it's interesting because they play up a lot of the same tropes they did in the first story. And what I said about them that worked so well in the first King Tut story doesn't work as well here. Robert C. Dennis comes from a drama background. Most of his TV shows are shows like $6 Million Man, Policewoman, Alfred Hitchcock Presents. He does a lot of drama. Earl Barrett was the comedy writer. He did a lot of sitcoms in the 60s and 70s. In the first King Tut episode, despite Victor Buono, it actually worked, but it doesn't this time around with them. I don't know why. I don't know what it was, or maybe because they were just going back to the well and sort of doing what they did before. It's a little dry.
Yeah, and I can't help but wonder. I mean, you know how it works. At least, from I've never worked on a TV show, but when you read enough about the behind the scenes stuff. I mean, their names are on the writers' credits. You wonder how many rewrites and how many other fingers got into it, revising it and changing it to where it got to what we saw on the screen. Let
me ask you, Bat Gadget, what's your favorite in this episode?
If we're talking strictly Gadget, I would have to say the quote unquote Bat GPS that he used to locate Robin. But I was gonna give an honorable mention to the buttermilk.
The buttermilk. I agree with you on the GPS. The whole I liked those large bat communicators that Robin had. I actually wonder if any of them still exist.
Somewhere out there, there's a collector who's got, one stashed away.
Right. Okay, trivia question time. In this episode, there is a wedding anniversary celebrated. Whose wedding anniversary?
Wasn't that Commissioner Gordon and his wife?
That's right. I didn't want to slip during my discussion of the episode. I said, because I kind of sounded dirty. I'm like going, Commissioner Gordon leaves to spend time with his wife. All right, so finally we come to the point where we rate our episode here, and I'm going to put it to you, Julio. You are Robin the Boy Wonder. You and Batman have just watched this episode, and you turn to Batman and you say to him, "Holy what?"
Holy mummified writing, Batman.
Ooh, I like that. So I take it overall you weren't impressed.
Nah, there were definitely good things about the episode. I mean, when it came to the Egyptian, history, the iconography, I may have just totally said that word wrong. the talking about the hieroglyphics and things about the stuff relating to Egyptian lore and culture. I like that. The dialogue that, we discussed early in the episode, the writing had high spots, high points in terms of the not dumbing down the wording and things like that. But the plot and the pacing, especially in the second part, just don't work. It doesn't click for me. Especially, like I said, the second part feels very padded. King Tut as a villain completely falls flat for me. It's okay. It's not awful. I would never probably rewatch it unless you and I do another one of these and we have to review the same episode 20 years from now.
Yeah, it's funny how, and I've had this on both here and on Cyborgs. I've had people say that. It's I don't think I'd watch this again unless we revisit this 20 years. That's funny that you say that because I've had several people say that now.
Wow, that's yeah. It's just one of the things. I mean, there's just better episodes. There's better villains and episodes out there in the show, and this is just not. Like I said, it wasn't awful. It wasn't Drek worthy.
Right.
But it's far from being, memorable for me.
I agree. I was going to say, and I don't have anything as exciting, but Holy Scarab. To me, this was kind of petrified like a scarab and probably needed a really big jolt to bring it to life.
Probably about 200,000 volts worth.
About 200,000 volts worth. I mean, it has its moments. But again, yeah, you're right. It's not something I would go back and say, oh, I'd like to watch this. The one thing I did like, and it reminds me of my favorite Batman story, which was a first season Joker episode. I like the fact that, once again, Batman uses some preventative measures in order to foil King Tut's plot by using the buttermilk. We don't know why he's doing it. He doesn't explain it. He's just sitting there drinking buttermilk, and he's Batman. Batman drinks milk. So, we're okay. 6 glasses seems a little extreme, but okay, Batman, we'll let you do it. It's the same thing happened in the Joker episode. Batman notices the discoloration or the lack of discoloration on a bottle of champagne. So he knows it's been tampered with. It's an old bottle. And he knows it's been tampered with in some way. So he hands Robin a pill. And remember, he says he doesn't take medication.
Right.
He takes, but it's a countermeasure for the gas that the Joker used, the knockout gas. So they just pretend to be knocked out. That's like my favorite out of the whole series is that Joker episode. And this was a nice little twist here as well. Batman's being smart is what I like.
Right.
I can't find the antidote, but I'll find a way to prevent it from working.
Right. I can't find it, but I'll go on a buttermilk bender just to, counteract it later.
It's extreme, I'll give you that, but I still like it.
I agree. I think it was one of the better parts of the episode. I agree.
So, as we come to the end of this episode of the Batcave podcast, Julio, before we go, if people want to get in touch with you, if you'd like some new stalkers, how can people find you? On this internet, anyway. Don't give home address.
Yeah, I'm sure there's just after this episode, there's just rabid people waiting to get a hold of me. My blog is www.jaowriter.com, or check me out on Facebook at facebook.com/Julio Angel Ortiz.
All right, very cool. And I'll put links up for those on the show notes when we release this episode.
Awesome.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Next time, it's going to be another new villain. It's the mother of all stories, as Ma Parker takes on Batman. And taking on this episode with me is writer Jay Smith. So I'm looking forward, because I seem to remember enjoying Shelley Winters as Ma Parker. So hopefully I'm not disappointed.
Yeah, her holding an Uzi out the window. Yeah, that should be a good one.
Yeah. So until next time, citizens, thanks so much for listening. Take care, chums. Take care, Julio. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, chums. I don't have a bat phone, but you can contact the Batcave podcast through its Facebook page, Twitter, email at thebatcavepodcast@gmail.com, or by phone at 888-866-9010. Subscribe to the podcast via Libsyn.com, that's LIBSYN.com, or through iTunes. The Batcave podcast is part of a series of pop culture podcasts from the Chronic Rift Network. Find them at chronicrift.com. So until next time, citizens, same bat time, same Batcave podcast.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
And to have slipped you a polluted lemonade.
Don't give it another thought, Commissioner.
That will be all, young gentlemen. Complete your assignments and hand them in tomorrow.
Not again.
I'm off to a faculty meeting.
Oh, you're off, all right, but not to a faculty meeting. Your phony Egyptian friends await our royal presence at the local tombs.
Well, I'm a professor of Yale. You can't. The PTA shall hear of this. Where am I?
Are you going to try him in court?
I haven't decided yet, Batman. With your approval, I'd like to think it over. No choice is easy in a case like this.
I agree completely, Commissioner. The law of this city is in your hands. We just try to help a bit, here and there, wherever we can.
So brave, so dependable, and so modest. Rare in men these days. Very rare.